Ultimate Tenkaichi fell flat. It just had too many flaws to be a great game. The only silver lining was it had a charm and it could be fun at times. I take that as the game system itself having potential. It just needs to be fixed up a bit. So this is my list of what I think the biggest flaws are and how to fix them. Honestly, I like the new system. Sure, it needs a lot of work, but it was enjoyable. I'm not going to be one of those people who demands that it go back to one of the older game systems. I'm just going to focus on how to make this one better. First, stop using ki for everything defense related. A system where your stamina is based off ki and health would work best. This would make it so people are hard to combo at full health even without any ki, and when you are near death, when you have full ki, you'll be able to defend yourself well. Speaking of low health, upon entering this state, the player should gain a second wind type boost. This would give that player a large boost to ki when entering red health to allow them a chance to fight back from the brink of death. Sure, it would make someone harder to finish off, but I see that as a good thing. Makes battles stay interesting and intense even at the end. In terms of the two ranges, that didn't bother me either. I like the idea of having set ranges actually. This issue I had with this was mainly that little scene when you enter melee range. If there was no transition like that and you just got a little pop-up that told you you entered melee range, it would be fine. Of course, the big issue here are your combat options. Now, I'm not a person who thinks simple equals bad. Here though, things are too simple and too limited. At range you fire ki, and at melee you punch. Both options end up leading into a pursuit chain. The first thing I would do here is to not have ki attacks lead into melee anymore. This is one of the reasons why it's so easy to be cheap with Strike Booster. While in Strike Booster, you can use a super, then blast them with ki before they can block, and start a chain they can't defend, and repeat the whole thing. If ki doesn't lead to melee range, then you couldn't do that. Now if you did that, long range would need some sort of boost to give people a reason to fight there. So some sort of unique advantage to being long range than melee wouldn't have. For this, I would have the option of charging up the charge ki blast for a longer time to use a much bigger blast that if landed would temporarily stun someone. This would allow them to fire off more ki blasts, charge ki, close in from melee, etc. This would give a player a reason to stay at a distance if their character was good at fighting there. The melee clearly needs to be updated. Now, I'm not against the defensive end, though it needs to be changed from the primary form of defense to a secondary. By this I think it should come up when both players are in melee range and both punch at basically the same time. Then it shifts, with a more natural looking transition, to each picking a type of attack. The winner then gets to beat up the other person. Which brings us to comboing. Now, the idea I have in my head would be a hybrid of the Raging Blast 2 system and the Ultimate Tenkaichi one. The controls would be like Ultimate Tenkaichi in that you only use one button to attack, but the directions you push depends on what you do. For the style, it would be like Raging Blast 2's follow-up system, but be presented more like Ultimate Tenkaichi's combo pursuit chain. So after punching someone enough times, you're able to start one of these follow-up chains. Now, depending what follow-up you did, depends on which follow-ups you can do after, and you have a limited number of follow-ups you can do. The last thing here is that you'd be able to do a charge follow-up, which is you simply hold the button down, and you do a stronger version of it. The only problem is, it would give the defender a chance to escape. Also, at the start of this, the player would have a choice between doing a combo or a pursuit chain. Now, the two would basically keep their same properties, but the pursuit chain would do less damage. This would mean a player going for supers would see their melee damage suffer in exchange for a big payoff in the end. The biggest thing to fix though are the defensive options. Apart from changing recovering like I mentioned, they should bring back After Image, Explosive Wave, Barrier, and the other defensive moves. Now before you start saying I'm crazy, here's how I see them working. When you're getting hit, you'll be able to activate these moves to get out of the combo. To use one, it would cost you some spirit, and each time it would cost you more and more. So like Strike Booster, using it poorly would leave you unable to defend yourself later. Now for the Strike Booster. I think this should become a lot more like Raging Soul. It should allow you to drain your opponent's ki faster, but it should lower the amount of spirit you get while it's active. This would stop you from being really cheap with it. Plus, it would make you more pure basic attacks at either range. The other thing it should do is let you use all of your follow-up options, and if you do them all, end in some big flashy hit. The last thing on Strike Booster are the finish attacks need to flow better. Here's a little edit to show what I'm talking about.
Useless.
Not bad.
It's over. How's that?
Not bad.
You still want to fight? This is over. This is over.
Signature skills should return, but they should be changed. For example, Goku doesn't have a normal Kaioken in Ultimate Tenkaichi, so why not give him that as his signature and base? Also, you can make them more situational. Why not make some so you can't use them unless you have half health? For Kaioken, why not make it so Goku would gain ki from it, but his health would slowly drain while it's active? Maybe have some that can only be activated from melee or blast range. I mean, you could easily make these things counters, power-ups, desperation attacks, minor supers, attacks that take spirit and are stronger but aren't full-blown supers, or just attacks that help you start or continue a chain. Here's another example of what you could do with them. After a whole pursuit chain, Vegeta knocks him to the ground and starts to do the usual barrage of ki, but his signature allows him to spend some spirit on powering up to use a stronger barrage of ki like a mini volley. Basically, you just hit circle for the last pursuit hit, and he does it. So that's it for the gameplay. It would leave the core system the same for the most part, but expand what options the player has, improve the flow of combat, and give the two ranges a more distinct difference. In Ultimate Tenkaichi, there was no point to flying around at all. The only thing you did, outside of going to the next battle, was collect Dragon Balls, and to get them, you didn't do anything you couldn't do in Versus or Tournament anyway. This made the map just for show, with no substance at all. Clearly, this needs to be fixed. Add places to go, reasons to go to the battle zone, secrets to find, people to interact with, places to train. This will be covered more later, but people like leveling up systems. They give you a sense of you are getting stronger as you accomplish goals. With one of the story mode, you open up a whole new range of both missions you can add to it, mini games, and a reason for people to not just jump to the next fight. The last thing about story mode is the boss fights. There need to be more boss fights that aren't just giants. For the big climactic fights such as Super Saiyan Goku versus Frieza, they need to up the scale. Give them special events, make them a proper boss fight. If they did all this, it would elevate the story mode to greatness.